Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? So one of the great shows of 2016 happened to be sci-fi's The Expanse, which if you're interested in binge watching in one go to refresh your memory rather than going for my short recap, happens to be available on Netflix. It was a very interesting show with lots of plot lines and lots of great acting and character development, including defining the characters' backgrounds in various schools of thought. But you probably all know that, so here goes my recap. Number 1. The show is set 200 years into the future, where the solar system has been colonized and follows the trials and tribulations of multiple characters, including a police detective, Joe Miller, who is charged with finding a missing young woman, Julie Mao. In the meanwhile, Jim Holden, the executive officer of the Canterbury, is involved in an incident that threatens to destabilize the uneasy peace between Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Back on Earth, Chrisjen Avasarala, a United Nations executive, is trying throughout the entirety of the first season to prevent a war between Earth and Mars and is willing to do whatever is deemed necessary to achieve that. These three come to find out that Julie Mao and the Canterbury's fate are both tied to a conspiracy threatening humanity as they know it. But number 2. Miller happens to be the most interesting character on the show. He's a detective for Star Helix Security, whom we get to know has witnessed a lot of horrible things that people do to each other out of greed, anger, and lust. He puts on a hat as he walks on Eros, which doesn't see any rainy or sunny days. However, he does it in a clear defiance to the anti-Earth sentiments his fellow Belters carry around. Throughout most of the first season, Miller is running around looking for Julie, even after realizing the ship she was on was destroyed and after being informed by his boss that he does not need to worry about the completion of this job anymore. But number 3. On board of the ice hauler Canterbury, a spaceship responsible for supplying water for the asteroid belt residents, we meet Jim Holden. After the Canterbury is destroyed by what everyone believed was a Mars stealth ship, he is picked up along with 5 other survivors by the MCRN Donnager, a Mars flagship. They are held captive and interrogated about the Canterbury's destruction and are led to believe that one of the survivors, which he trusts, actually works for the Outer Planets Alliance, or the OPA. Following that, stealth ships of the same type that attacked the Canterbury earlier appear and attack the Mars Donnager, revealing that Mars wasn't behind the Canterbury's destruction. They all flee the ship along with one of the Donnager's crew, and eventually he becomes the captain of the Resigned. But number 4. The OPA happens to be an organization that started as some sort of a labor union advocating for the inhabitants of the belt. The OPA is identified on the show to be in conflict with the Inner Planets Earth-Mars Coalition Navy. The Outer Planets Alliance is split into 2 factions, one led by Fred Johnson, who represents the larger faction, achieving a form of legitimate recognition by the United Nations and Martian Republic. The other is the Free Navy and is represented by Marco and Eros. The Free Navy favors belt independence from interference in taxation by Earth and Mars. Number 5. As I mentioned early on, the third and final lead character on the show's first season is Chrisjen Avasarala. She's introduced as a master politician occupying one of the highest ranks in the UN government. We're also introduced to how she manipulates those in the highest positions of power by cultivating relationships not only with them but with those closest to them. We also get to find out she comes from a long line of politicians. Her father was assassinated by Mars separatists during a period of social unrest. Her son, a Marine, died defending Earth from Belter revolutionaries, but all that did not break her will, as she's willing to do whatever it takes to defend and protect Earth, believing it is the cradle of humanity. But number 6. Now down the road we get to find out that the missing woman, Julie Mao, is an OPA member. We find out that while she was on board of the Scopuli, she was attempting with her fellow OPA members to secure a weapon of her father's that was on board of the stealth ship, the Anubis. A weapon she feared would be used against Belters. The Anubis easily overtook the Scopuli and the men on board killed Julie's 2 partners and put her in holding. Next, we saw the Anubis destroy the Canterbury, coming to the realization as to who was behind the attack in the first place. As this attack takes place, Julie manages to escape from holding and ends up coming into contact with a blue glowing or radiating substance before she ends up leaving the Anubis to Eros station. While she tries to get help, her calls go unanswered and her body undergoes a great deal of change due to the substance she came into contact with earlier. Finally, as her body becomes unrecognizable as she's most definitely dying, Miller, Holden, among others, bust through the door, only now she has moved on. So number 7. Close to the end of the first season, Fred Johnson sends a broadcast after he discovers the information he found on Lopez gave a detailed analysis of the attack against the Doniger. He also reveals the attackers happen to be advanced stealth fighters built on Earth. But number 8. As the first season's finale progresses, Chrisjen comes to the conclusion that her boss, Aaron Wright, is connected to all the incidents that nearly pushed Earth, Mars, and the Belt to war by destroying the Canterbury and framing Mars. But number 9. During the events of the season finale, Miller and Holden, who have been blasted with radiation and have only a couple of hours to live, are on the run in Earth Station and trying their best to get to their ship to use its advanced medical bay for treatment before it's too late. While they're running for their lives, they end up realizing that the CPM, the private corporation responsible for the security of Eros, has been deliberately spreading the radiation, and with over 100,000 people on the brink of death, war between Earth, Mars, and the Belt is imminent. When they finally make it to the ship, Naomi attends to their treatment from radiation poisoning while they launch the ship in pursuit of Dresden and his men. Dresden happens to be a scientist and seemingly a henchman working for Julie's father. Given the events of the first season, we know as well that Jules Pierre Mao, Julie's father, is most definitely involved in all the mishaps of the first season, leading up to the extremely high death toll in Eros. Last but not least, number 10. In the very last scene of the finale, we see the proto-molecule, which is pretty much the cause of all this radiation and death in the first place, taking a human form as people are sucked into the space vortex created by the proto-molecule itself, leaving us with a major question about what is happening and the nature of the proto-molecule. That being said, let me know in the comments if this recap helped give you a quick memory jog and if you are excited for the second season of the show.